Hey, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Megan and I'm a professional writer and editor and a published author. Full disclosure, normally I plan these videos a little bit more in advance and I did no planning for this, so I'm just hitting record and we're gonna see what happens. But I did want to share two things with you today in particular, and the first is a quick query update, and then I wanted to let you know about a writing conference I went to this past weekend and a few things that I learned, and hopefully you will take away something from this video. So first, a query update. If you're new here, my most recent completed manuscript is an adult supernatural mystery. I started querying, I think maybe a month or so ago. At this point, I have queried 37 literary agents, and as of this morning, I've received 18 passes, so 18 out of 37. All of those have been form rejections, so I haven't really gotten any personalized feedback, which doesn't surprise me. It was just kind of like the canned response you always get, which is, you know, I can't be the champion I need to be, and publishing is super subjective, so keep querying. That's okay. Agents are too busy to provide feedback. What's a little frustrating, and I didn't realize this until recently, in the past, when I would receive a pass from an agent, I had never made a habit of trying to follow up with them asking for feedback, knowing that usually they're not going to because they just don't have enough time. But this time around, I was like, well, what do I have to lose? So I went back to one of the rejections I got through Query Manager, and I couldn't respond. Query Manager told me that because the agent had already given their response, the query was closed, so you can't reply to them. So that kind of sucked, but also I get it. A pass is a pass, and after they tell you no, they don't need to talk to you. Why would they want to talk to you? For the queries that I send by email, I think I'm going to start following up with those people and seeing if they'll tell me anything, because as I've been querying, I've sent my query letter, synopsis, and the first roughly 3 chapters. I've sent it to a few like online friends and beta readers. I also sent it to an agent who offers editing services, and she reviewed it and she provided very helpful feedback. But I don't know if I was surprised, what I was happy to see was that there were no huge issues with any of my material. There were no like glaring mistakes. Now, just because I want to get a second opinion, I did send it to one more agent editor who's going to review it, and I should have that back within a few days. Not because the first agent didn't do a good job, I just want a second opinion. But seeing that she didn't have tons and tons of feedback, again, great feedback that she delivered, it made me think a few things. So first of all, I was like, okay, this is good, I'm not that far off. But then I thought, okay, if I'm still getting turned down, then agents are either finding little tiny details that they're using to take me out of their pile, which agents do. They're looking for a reason to say no because they have so many submissions. It's either that or agents don't like the idea, which is possible. They might not like the idea because it's just not intriguing enough. They might not like the idea because it's not the perfect fit for them. So this has provided me with good feedback, but it almost made me ask more questions, because if my query is mostly good and my synopsis was mostly good, there was still some tweaking, but if it was mostly good, then it's either very tiny details that are getting me rejected, or no one likes the idea so far. The edits I got back from that agent/editor, what I liked about them was because there was nothing horribly wrong with it, she picked out very tiny details, little things to tweak and adjust. And that was a reminder for me to look even more closely at my work than I already am. It's tricky, and I'm going to come back to this because it's so subjective. You could change one thing to please one agent and then turn another agent off. So you're never going to please everybody. But I said in a previous video that I think it's important to test different versions of your query letter, different versions of your synopsis, and see if you can identify any patterns based on the versions you're using. So I'm still very much in that stage. And in the grand scheme of things, 37 queries, that's nothing. My books, I usually end up sending over 100 query letters. So it's okay. All right, now the next thing I wanted to share. If you're not familiar, there is a conference that happens in locations all around the country. They're called, I think they're called Writers' Day workshops, and they're organized by Chuck Sambuchino. If you don't know who he is, Google him. He's, a fairly prominent figure in the writing and publishing industry. I've been following him for like over a decade. And so again, he holds these workshops all across the country. And I went to one that I've talked about on this channel. I went to one like 15 years ago back in Detroit. I'm from Michigan. So basically they hold sessions throughout the day. It's like an all-day event, and they hold different sessions and workshops. Some are held by him, some might be held by agents, and they just cover various topics. Like there was one session at this recent conference where they talked about AI and publishing. So there are sessions throughout the day, and then you can also purchase pitch sessions because there are agents there. And first I want to tell you about my first experience 10 plus years ago. I pitched 3 agents, they all passed. Pitched them on my next book, they all passed. This was a long time ago, so I'm sure if I were to look back at that writing, it would be absolute trash, but that's okay. But I realized at that first workshop 14, 15 years ago, how good of an opportunity this is, because this is like the only chance you have to actually sit down with an agent face to face. And I learned a lot because at least in these workshops, you get 10 minutes. You can spend that 10 minutes however you want, but they're pitch sessions. So ideally, you pitch your book, and then you spend the rest of the time talking about it or asking questions or whatever. Last time, again, I didn't make any progress last time with that first conference I went to, but there's a second part of these conferences that I love, and I did it both times. So what it is, and I think I've talked about it on this channel, you can anonymously submit the first page of your manuscript, and your name isn't on it, it's just your genre and then the first page. And someone reads all of the first pages out loud. And what happens is there's a panel of agents, and what Chuck tells the agents is, as soon as this first page loses you, raise your hand. And once 3 agents raise their hand, they stop reading, and then you get feedback. So I did this for the first time, like 15 years ago, and they got through my first 2 paragraphs, and all of their hands shot up. And they all had the same feedback. They said that I had gone too long without any character taking any action. I was just talking. And I swear to God, I never forgot that advice. I never, ever, ever forgot that advice. So now I will rarely go more than 2 paragraphs without somebody taking action, and I absolutely do not do it within the first few pages. That was about 15 years ago. Fast forward to this past weekend, and let's start with the pitch sessions. So I pitched 4 agents. 1 passed on the spot. She was super nice about it. The idea wasn't her cup of tea. And then the other 3 told me to send them my manuscript, which was super exciting. And there were 2 agents in particular, who felt like a really good fit. And ironically, even though I was the most nervous for this one, my first pitch session was the strongest, and we had like such great chemistry. And she told me, and I'm going to come back to this was very validating. She said, if you pitch more agents today, don't change a thing because your pitch is perfect. So that agent, and then there was one other gentleman that I pitched, and he was so cool and so just like fun, and I got such great vibes from him, and I could see myself working and growing with both of them. So that was a huge win to me. What was interesting about what the one agent said about my pitch, and I'll describe my pitch in a second in case you want to try it for yourself. My pitch didn't look all that different from my query letter that I send out. It was like, if my pitch was good, then my query letter must be good. So why am I not getting any interest in this damn book? Again, who knows? It's too subjective. But it was good validation. And oh my God, these agents were just so friendly. It was such a good boost, like a positive boost, because when you're sitting behind your computer querying and the only interaction you have with agents is when they reject you, that wears on you. So getting in front of 4 agents face to face, all of whom were so friendly, it was just that reminder that like, these are just normal people. They're generally friendly people. But you miss that interaction because all of this is happening behind your computer typically. Now my pitch, if you want to try any of this, none of it's revolutionary. I'm not acting like I came up with something brilliant. I'm just saying that I got feedback that it works. So this was a verbal pitch. I practiced it a million times. I got it to just under 3 minutes. So 3 of those 10 minutes I spent pitching my book. I started with genre, word count, and comps. So right off the bat, I said, this is an adult supernatural mystery, 76,000 words, akin to Come With Me by Ronald Malfi. And then I went into the summary of the book. Now for the summary, I'm not going to recite the whole thing, but there were a few things in particular that I was very, very careful to do. The first thing that I called out was why the protagonist's life had to change. In other words, what triggers him to go on this adventure in Act 2? What is the impetus? You might call it the inciting incident. So basically, your protagonist has this status quo, but something screws it up. And then they have to go on this adventure, whether physically or not physically. They have to go on this journey to try to reestablish their status quo. Something is shaking up their world. So I didn't just describe my protagonist's normal everyday life. It was, here's a general idea of who this person is, but here's why things are screwed up and why he feels he has to go fix it. That was a big thing I called out. And then another thing I made a point of mentioning was the stakes and what the ticking clock is. What's going to happen if he sets out to solve his problems and he fails? What does he stand to lose? In my case, in my story, it is in some way, it's a matter of life and death. And then also the ticking clock. And this might be a literal countdown, or it could be another factor that's just weighing on the protagonist more and more. Because one thing I learned with novels is that you don't want it to be so that a protagonist has forever to try to solve their problems. There needs to be some sort of fixed time or event or something where they know, if I don't get this done by this time, bad things are going to happen. Otherwise, the book could just go on indefinitely and there's no increasing tension. There are no increasing stakes. There's no increasing conflict. Now, in my book's case, long story short, throughout the second and third acts, things are just continuing to deteriorate, and my protagonist mentally, physically, spiritually is breaking down more and more and more. And it becomes very evident towards the end of Act 3 that they have one last chance at fixing all of this. And if they don't, then they're screwed and my protagonist is cooked. I'm glossing over a million details, obviously. But anyhow, I called that out in my pitch. And stakes, the ticking clock, and then and that was it. And that took me altogether about 3 minutes. And then I also called out to this agent, to all of the agents, why I pitched them in particular. I don't remember how many agents total there were, but I went through all of their bios, all of their socials, and picked out the 4 that were the best fit, because I wanted to be able to get in front of them and say, this is why I'm pitching you. And it wasn't enough for it to be like, well, I'm pitching you because you rep mystery or you rep supernatural. The agents that I picked, there were specific details. So if you can take away anything from that to help you, I hope it does. But yeah, overall, it was a great day. So let's see, the pitch sessions for this event were $29 each, and you could purchase as many as you wanted. Oh, I didn't tell you about the other part, the first page critique. So like I did 15 years ago, again, I submitted my first page anonymously. And this session ran for about an hour, and they just got through as many first pages as they could. So there wasn't even a guarantee they would get to my first page. But I did the same. They had the same thing where they would critique the first page, and the agents would raise their hands. So they got to mine. As soon as they started reading it, I was like, oh! And my heart was like, just like hammering in my chest. I was so like excited and nervous because I went into this thinking, okay, 15 years ago, they got 2 paragraphs in and they cut it off. And I went into this knowing this year, 15 years later, I worked so hard to improve. They're gonna get through my full first page. And they started reading it, and about halfway through, an agent raised her hand, and I was like, good. And then a couple seconds later, a second agent raised her hand. And now, mind you, if a third raised their hand, they'd stop reading my first page. But no one else raised their hand. They got through the entire first page, and it was a very small number of people that they finished the first page. And I was in my husband came with me, and I was just sitting there like, oh, because if nothing else, it was an indication for me that like, I'm better than I was 15 years ago. Thank God. I would hope to be better, but that was really nice. They were very good about giving positive feedback and constructive criticism. What was interesting about this, though, was that, and they acknowledged that it's super subjective. One agent was like, oh my God, I love the detail. Listen to this line. And she reread part of the first page. And then the next agent was like, it's too much detail for me. I would trim it. And everyone kind of laughed a little bit. But I was talking to my husband about it because he's not an author. He supports me 1000%, but this is more my thing. But he wanted to come to support me and to learn. And I don't know if he fully understood just how, what am I trying to say? Just how closely they're looking for reasons to turn you down, how it can be the tiniest detail that gets you that rejection, that pass. One of the agents, and she wasn't even saying it in a bad way, she was just questioning it. On the first page of my manuscript, I mention a necklace that the mother is wearing, and it's a cross necklace, and it's made of both silver and gold. And there's no significance to this. I have a silver and gold cross necklace that my parents gave me many years ago as a gift, and that's just what I thought of when I wrote this. And it was just me trying to add more details and bring it to life. And she called that out. She was like, why is it silver and gold? And again, she wasn't knocking me, but it got me thinking like, okay, considering this is the first page and you have so little time to get an agent's attention, should you only be mentioning details that really, really, really mean something and save the details like the silver and gold necklace for later? It got me thinking, and I left that event looking at everything a little bit differently, which is a good thing. This is all a good thing. It also made me a little nervous to have one agent say that they love all the detail and then the next agent to say they don't like all the detail. But I think what that means for us authors is that it's just confirmation that we will not be able to win over every agent. And the best you can do is write the best book possible, the best query letter you can write, and stay true to the story and make your best call, use your best judgment. And that is it. That's all you can do. Because if I trimmed the detail on my first page to satisfy one agent, there'd probably be another agent that was like, I really would have loved if this was fleshed out more. I don't think agents are lying to us when they say it's subjective. I think it is. It's intimidating that you have so little time to win them over. That's what happens when you're in a very competitive industry, a very saturated industry, where there is a very, very much a power imbalance, meaning for every agent, there are thousands of people querying them every year. And that's just the nature of this business. It is what it is. So overall, I had a blast at that event. I came home and I crashed. I had gotten home and I was like, mentally I was motivated. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get right back to it. I'm gonna work on my books. I was destroyed, but in a good way. I was so tired because during those pitch sessions and during the first page read, like your adrenaline's going up a little bit. and then you have to crash after. So I got home and I collapsed on the couch. I was done. I was out of commission. Amazing event. Writers' Day workshops. This one was in Denver. They're all over the place. Chuck Sambuchino. I'll put some references and links in the description if you want to check it out. The conference ticket itself, was it $200 or $300? I can't remember. To me, it was well worth the investment. And they do offer other things. You could purchase, could you purchase query critiques, synopsis critiques? There were other add-ons that you could purchase. I only did the pitch sessions. If you have the means to go, and if it's something you're interested in investing in, I can vouch for these events. I've been to 2 now. Amazing experience both times. Again, the agents were amazing, helpful. They wanted to help. The feedback they provided during that first page read, I listened to the feedback they gave everybody, and I thought it was really good. That is my recap of the event. Loved it. Query update. But I'm gonna keep going. As always, thank you so much for being here and listening to me go on and on. I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you want to drop an update and let me know how your writing journey is going. And I also posted a poll on my page with a few potential topics for upcoming videos. You could also comment and suggest other topics. I just wanted to gauge where you guys are at and see, what type of videos you want me to make more of. So go check out that poll. I would love your feedback. Yeah, until next time, happy writing. Bye.